Hey guys, just a quickie on on Stratis. Now this has been really technical, and we're getting some action here today. So, these are sharp moves, but they have been very technical. So let's just take a look at it here and see what we can learn. Now, I'm here on the hourly, right? So sometimes you got to be sure to step back on these and go, all right, wait a minute, where has this thing been? Go where have we been? So very long established downtrend, right? So of course we're spreading against Bitcoin, right? So this comes up all the time. People are calling saying, hey man, I only want to trade against Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the 800-pound gorilla. So anything that you're spreading against Bitcoin, it better have a lot of juice to get going, especially on a day like this where we've got Bitcoin screaming to new highs. So it shouldn't be a surprise that if you're spread against Bitcoin pretty much anywhere that you're seeing some retracement activity, let's say it that way. So looking back here, I mean this is a really well established downtrend. So trying to be a buyer here is making the assumption that we are now changing trend. Look how well the Vegas wave has contained this. Now, so you look at that and say, okay, well, even on the 4-hour, we've just broken through the Vegas wave. So that would be the reason to be looking. Well, now let's go down to the 1-hour, knowing that we are making the assumption that we are now starting a new trend and that this is going to need to move at a faster pace than Bitcoin if you want to trade it against Bitcoin. Well, so there's a couple of things to note here. First, when you're looking at this, you have to consider well, let me go back to this. I'm pulling from the prior swing up here. Well, look, we haven't yet come to the 50. So even though we have a break here, this still needs to prove itself that we're not just making a retracement on a higher time frame. Here's the 50 before we start heading back down, because of course that 50 will have targets way down here. You got. Sometimes I got to put this in scale because here's 0. So unless this is going out of business, this would be really extreme. So maybe we have a change of trend. Look, just as I said before, that's awfully. This is a big rip, and that's an awfully short amount of time to correct that as a one wave. So maybe I'm not saying there's not a trade there. I'm just saying that's on the higher risk side. So if you're going to take this, right, I mean, you could take this right here, right now. You're right in the box. You're right at the 50. You're right at the Vegas wave. You're at the 175, 1618 box. You haven't taken out this swing high. That's one where you'd look for the oscillators for some timing. This is ugly here. That's the unbalanced volume is just pinned down. The RSI is just approaching oversold, and you've got your wave oscillator here is negative as you'd expect. So if you're a buyer there, you got to have a tight stop. Now, I'm not saying I don't do that and I don't like doing that. I'm just saying, don't assume that you've just put in a 2 and then we're ripping higher for a 3. That a lot of things have to happen for that to be the case. But for a relatively low dollar trade to put that in, and maybe you're catching another move like Vert, maybe so if you buy it here now and your stop's under this swing high, is that going to hurt you? Probably not, unless you really load up on it, which I would not suggest. There's no reason to do that, because if that's going to be a 2, and we don't know that it is, but if it's going to be a 2, well, I've got the structure, I've got the separation, I've got a clear ABC into that likely support. It's very technical, so if we get that, you don't have to worry about missing it, because as I will often tell you, the more conservative place to go, particularly if you're new to this, is wait for that, and then you wait for this. You take the next 50. So now you've got a low to work from. Right now, you're kind of gambling on that low, that's my low, and then I get the pop, and then we start up into the 3. I'm not saying don't ever do it. I'm just saying be sure you got a tight stop on it, right? And don't overload it. So you might take a little bite at it there, see if you get the turn, because that is so good technically. And if we get the little pop up here, don't be surprised and be quick to move your stop to break even, because you have a reasonable probability that you're just putting in an A wave there. And then you'd go up for the B, and then maybe you're coming down from the C, as we just looked at on the last chart, where we're looking at that. Do you get a truncated? Are you going down? There's just no way to know, because we've got technical levels down here. So if you're going to get that, if you think that's a good pivot, well, you can take a portion there, let it show itself. Are you moving off of that with some impulsiveness? Can you get any subdivision down there? I always encourage you to stay at a 15-minute at a minimum. Below that, there's just too much noise, too much spikiness. Do you get the pop? Look, we've already popped out of the box. So we went in the box, right to the Vegas wave, right to the 50. I've drawn here. Let me open it up so you can see it. I've drawn the A to B to C relationship. So I got to move it over a little bit. So if I go A projected from the B, here's the 1618 to the 175 box. There's the 50. There's the Vegas wave. Look at that, right in the Vegas wave pocket. You'll be amazed how often that happens. So reasonable trade. You could trade that with a very tight stop. And all you're looking for is to get the first pop. Then if you get a pullback, because of course you're always drawing the fibs from the other direction, so you'd be pulling down to if that's a good low. Well, this has got to get up and get through the 50, then the 618, then the 75, and that could still, think of Bitcoin, that could still play in that fashion to make a more I'll say it that way, more complexity in that too. Right, and come back down. So remember, so if you're coming up here, then you get the negative 23 down here, and I'm just freestyling this. But if that were to go up there, now from this box here to up here to the 786, that's a nice looking trade. Nothing wrong with that, right? So I mean, that's just punching out a single. That you might even call that a double, depending on what you went with. And if you got something like this, we went to the 50. Then you got a little pullback here. Then here's the opportunity to perhaps add to it, because your entry here, now you're at break even. Now if you're going to add here, you can put a little bit more on, knowing that if you get the turn there, well, now you've added some size to it, and you're looking for the 3 to come out of that. Right, but still, it's just that steep move, and you're trying to go against Bitcoin. So, just approach with caution. A little stop, not going to hurt you. Nothing wrong with doing that. All right, let's go over and look at it against the dollar. Where'd we go? Shit. Hang on. That's what I'm trying to do here. There we go. So against the dollar, it's a totally different count. Which I always tell you, go with where you've got the cleaner count. So we're, on the dollar on the 1 hour, we've already got good subdivision here. This was a trade that I posted just the other day. Look how perfect that is. So we come right to the Vegas wave. Okay, so why is the box there? Let me get the fib. So if that's our 1, I draw the box. We're right here there's the 50, the 618, the Vegas wave. You've got this cluster back here, where we had sort of this congestion back here. So lots of good reasons to think that potentially he had a 2 there, and then you got the rip. Now, note here, this was, just as I've finished telling you guys about being careful about the speed of the 2, this one had you got to really blow that up to even see it. This had an extreme B. Here's the A, we get the B, just barely misses getting a new high, and then we scream down for the C and get the big reaction. So, this does happen. It's not that you don't ever want to take something like that because it's happened too fast, but you just want to approach with caution. So the stop was under the 6.5. Same kind of a thing. Reasonable place to be looking to enter the 2, tight stop. If it keeps going, get stopped out, not going to hurt me. Not going to hurt me. So now look how good this has been. Look how technical. So you look at that and you say, okay, well, let me pull this off and I'll recreate it. Probably got too much open here. My machine's slowing down. So I'm going to take this off so you can see it, and I'll recreate it. Now we're coming into this. Okay, so if this is a 1-2, this is consistent with what I was showing you on Vert. So if that's a 1-2, we think we might have a 3. It's the wrong one. We think we might have a 3. We're going to pull from our low, what we think is our low start of the 1 wave, down to the 2. I get it there. So here's the box. So that's the box, right? So I may be off the pivot there a little bit, but I make the point. So here's 1, 2, perfect entry, Vegas wave. It couldn't have been any prettier. up we go. Where are we going? Where's the most likely target? The 1618 to the 175. There's the box. We go a few ticks shy of it. Clearly that qualifies as a third wave. Then we get this nice three-wave correction, but we're coming down hard here. On both of these coins, we're coming down hard. So again, if you want to try and catch the falling knife, I wouldn't take it below the swing high here. I'd have my stop on the other side of that. So if indeed, so what are you going to do? You're just going to pull fibs from the 2, because if that's going to play, I can get that right. There it is. If I can get that to play ball with me for a 4, well, that's kind of interesting. So I got my 618 here right next to the wave 1 high. And here's the Vegas wave is creeping up. So, I'd want to see it get there, see, do we stall there, or do we just going to keep going? But that's definitely one to consider. Maybe, again, you can see I've got it alarmed because I'm watching this. So if we get in the box, I want to know about that. Now, you want to kind of see evidence of the thing, starting to pause or at least get a reaction there. I guarantee you we're going to get a reaction there just because it's a 618. But nothing says we just don't keep screaming. But, you'd like to see into the box, and then you see a little bit of a reaction. If you don't like the idea of trying to catch the knife, you wait for the reaction, then you take the first pullback. That's the safer way to do it. Wait for that. Now you've got a pivot here. I think I drew this here to make the example. This would be nice to see the RSI get there, to get the wave trend down there. I'm on the 1 hour. So you'd like, that's where you could get some help from the oscillator. Now, look, we're already getting a reaction there, as is often the case. Algos will front run on the 50 and the 618. So it could be, let me take this off so you can see it. It could be that you've just had your first little sign that you've got some buying coming back into the market there. That wouldn't surprise me that you came a little shy of the 618. So if that's it and we start to move higher, again, you wait for this to move and you take the first retracement. It's a safer way to take it rather than try and catch it when it's coming down, to try and nail the turn exactly. Again, I'm not saying I don't do that every now and then. I have to like the coin and like the structure. That's a good example of where that makes sense to do it because your stop is so close by. So if you catch it, it's beautiful. You feel like a hero. Those are fun to get. But remember, this is I was just having this conversation with Cliff. The market is constantly trying to get you to do the wrong thing. To do the wrong thing at the right time. Professionals that have written these algos, people that are trading this, the whales, however you want to look at it, they want you to do the wrong thing so they can take your money. That's their job, to take your money. Your job is to try and prevent that and just try and get behind them, because they leave large footprints and they do predictable things on a regular basis. So if this hits this if we go into this box and we start to turn, that's a reasonable place to try and jump behind them and just try and follow in their footsteps. That's all you're trying to do. Now given the steepness here, this would make sense. Also, we're always trying to add a little structure. Well, if that's a 1-2, that's kind of interesting to me. So we get that structure there, so that adds a little credibility to that box. I really want to be careful about the overlap on that 1 wave as a potential stop, because if that's the case, then I don't have an impulse. And I'm looking now, again, just like against Bitcoin, it could be a diagonal because we've been in a long downtrend as well. So it's not uncommon for that wave 1 to move into a leading diagonal. So you could get some overlap here and still have a 1 wave unfolding. Ideally, it stays as an impulse. We don't get the overlap here. But if it does it, or does it just by a few ticks to get inside the box, it's still potentially a 1 wave. And then we've got, nice targets up here. So you've got some structure. So there's your negative 23. If this turns out to be the pivot, there's your negative 23. There's your negative 618. That, again, just like a pitchfork, a channel is adding a sense of time. To it. So first target would be up here. Is it going to pop and go? No, you never know. Right? So one to watch. I like these. Whenever I can be tight with the stop, even here. What are we at? $3.80. So 380. Your stop. You might, even if you gave that a little room on the other side of the 175, you're at 366. Guys, come on. That's feel free to take a run at that right there. Right, that you're not buying Bitcoin at 6,000 there. All right, so just keep that in mind. All right, okay, I'll wrap that there. That's just about 15 minutes.